Hey, why aren't koalas considered bears?
Because they're marsupials.
Because they're marsupials. No, it's because they don't have the right qualifications.
Lexie Hull finally broke her silence about all the new faces joining the Indiana Fever, and she did not hold back. This team has been completely reshaped, and while fans are thrilled, you have to wonder, how do the returning players feel about all of this? Because let's be real, when you bring in major signings like Sophie Cunningham, Natasha, Howard, Dananna Bonner, and Sydney Colson, it changes everything.
Now we know the Indiana Fever has got quite a few, bruh, starting with none other than Sophie Cunningham. Then we got Natasha Howard. Then they got Dananna Bonner. Then they got Sydney Clausen. And who else could come?
For a player like Hull, who's been part of the Fever through their struggles in rebuild, this isn't just another off-season, it's a complete turning point for the franchise. It's not just about adding talent, it's about shifting the entire identity of the team. And when Hull finally spoke about it, she gave us a glimpse into what it's really like inside the Fever locker room right now. Cute here, we're just so excited, or Hull said in an interview. I mean, it's still taking some time to sink in just how different things look. Every season things change. But this year feels huge.
And she's an incredible player, an incredible one-on-one player, so got my hands full, but I'm really excited about it and excited to get out. And it's gonna be a fun one. I mean, we battle during this W season. I mean, I'm looking one game at a time. So we're starting it off with Ryan.
You can tell from the way she speaks that there's a mix of excitement and adjustment. When you've been with a team for a while, you get used to playing alongside the same teammates, knowing their tendencies, building chemistry. But now Hull is stepping into a completely different environment. And this isn't just some random roster shakeup. This is Indiana going all in on building a contend. For years, the Fever were seen as a struggling team, constantly searching for a direction. Then Caitlin Clark happened, and now Indiana is suddenly one of the most exciting teams in the WNBA. That's not an easy adjustment for players who've been around during the tough times. Think about it, Hull has been here when Indiana was losing games, when they were being written off, when they were just trying to compete. And now all of a sudden the expectations are different. It's no longer about just improving, it's about winning. And that kind of shift brings pressure. Hull knows that with so many new signings, she has to prove herself all over again. That's the nature of the WNBA. You might have been an important player last year, but when new talent arrives, you have to show why you still belong in the rotation, and she's ready for it. But the most interesting part, she's not just embracing the challenge, she's welcoming it. I think the leadership that's coming and is going to make a huge difference. Hull said the experience, the championship mentality, it's what we need. She's talking about players like Dananna Bonner, who has won 2 WNBA championships and has 87 playoff games under her belt. That's experience that no one else on the Fever roster has had before. Then you add in Natasha Howard, a former WNBA champion with all-star credentials, and suddenly this team isn't just young and exciting, they have proven winners in the locker room, and Hull knows how much that matters, because when you've been part of a rebuilding team, you know how frustrating it is to just keep losing. You know what it feels like to work hard, to give everything on the court, and still come up short. Now she has teammates who know how to get it done. And the Fever aren't just adding players, they're adding players who want to be here. That's what makes this different. This isn't just some team throwing together a roster and hoping for the best. This is a team carefully selecting the right players, the right personalities, the right energy. And speaking of personality, let's talk about Sydney Colson officially joining the Fever. Because if there's one player who can bring leadership experience and pure entertainment, it's Sydney Colson. Colson isn't just a veteran guard, she's a locker room presence. She's one of those players who doesn't always get the headlines, but makes a massive impact on the culture of a team. If you followed her during her time with the Las Vegas Aces, you already know what she brings. She's got that fire, that energy, that attitude that every good team needs. And let's not forget, she's a champion. She was part of the 2022 Las Vegas Aces team that dominated the league. She's been in those high-press moments. She knows what it takes to win when it matters most. That's why the Fever wasted no time in making the signing official. Amber Cox, the Fever's general manager, made it clear that they wanted Colson for a reason. Sydney is a proven veteran in our league, Cox said. She brings a championship pedigree to the Fever, adding depth to our point guard position. That's the key, point guard depth. With Caitlin Clark running the show, the Fever needed a reliable veteran behind her, someone who can step and run the offense and bring that defensive intensity. Colson is perfect for that role, and let's be real, her impact goes beyond the stat sheet. She's the kind of player who brings energy every single day, whether it's in practice, cool on the bench, or in the locker room. She's keeping everyone engaged and locked in. That's so important. when you're trying to build a winning culture. And here's the part that's really interesting. Coulson joining the Fever isn't just about basketball, it's about what Indiana is becoming, because let's be honest, before Caitlin Clark arrived, would Sydney Coulson have signed here? Would Dananna Boner have left her fiancé to play in Indiana? Would Sophie Cunningham and Natasha Howard have jumped on board? Probably not. This is the Caitlin Clark effect. This is what happens when a generational talent lands in your city. Players want to be part of it. They want to be part of something special. And that's exactly what the Fever are building right now. But with all of these additions, the pressure is officially on, because now there are no excuses. Last season, the Fever were young, they were learning, they were growing. Now they have veterans, leadership, and experience. This is not a team that's going to be happy with just making the playoffs. This is a team that's thinking bigger, but that also means that players like Lexie Hull have to step up. She's no longer just a young player trying to prove herself. Now she's part of a team that has real expectations, and she knows it. That's why her response was so measured, so focused. She's not overwhelmed by the new signings, she's motivated by them. And that's exactly what the Fever need, because in a league as competitive as the WNBA, talent isn't enough. You need players who are hungry, who are willing to adapt, who are ready to do whatever it takes to win. Lexie Hull, she's ready. And with Sydney Coulson officially signed, Dananna Boner in the mix, and Natasha Howard adding depth, this Fever team is looking dangerous. But the real test, it starts when the games begin, because building a super team on paper is one thing, making it work on the court, that's a whole different challenge. And trust me, this season is going to be must-watch basketball. Lexie Hull has seen the Indiana Fever go from a struggling, overlooked team to suddenly being one of the most talked about franchises in the WNBA. And now, with a completely revamped roster and major expectations on their shoulders, she isn't just embracing the changes, she's speaking her mind about them. And the truth is, this isn't just another rebuild. The Fever are making the kind of power moves that signal a shift in the WNBA's hierarchy, and not everyone is thrilled about it. For years, Indiana was stuck at the bottom, constantly searching for an identity. They had talented young players, but they lacked the experience and leadership to take that next step. Then Caitlin Clark happened. Her arrival instantly changed everything. Suddenly, the Fever were no longer a team just trying to stay competitive. They were now a destination. Caitlin Clark show they're a complete team with veterans, leaders, and players who know how to win, and that changes everything. So now the question is, can they put it all together? Because talent isn't enough. Super teams don't always work. Chemistry takes time. Roles need to be figured out. But if they get it right, if all of these pieces come together the way they're supposed to, then the Indiana Fever aren't just a playoff team, they're a legitimate championship threat. And that is something that no one saw coming a year ago. The WNBA has never had a shakeup quite like this, and with the Fever stacking their roster with winners, veterans, and experienced leaders, the rest of the league better be ready, because Indiana is coming, and they're coming fast. So what do you think? Did the Indiana Fever make the right moves with Sydney Coulson, Sophie Cunningham, and Dananna Boner? And how do you feel about Lexie Hull's reaction to all the changes? Let us know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss an update on the WNBA's biggest moves. This season is about to be insane, and we'll be here covering it all. Click on the next video to keep watching, and we'll see you next time.